Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today I'll be walking you through your 2026 Sunseeker 2400T TS-Dead. We are just going to start off at the front of the unit. If you follow with me, we're going to start pulling over the driver's side. Right up at the front here, you do get your standard Mercedes chassis. It's going to be like most regular cars. Of course, making sure that you do upkeep with the maintenance on the chassis side of things. Coming a little bit further now that we're back into the camper portion. Right here, this is where your main propane is. This is where you're going to be filling it. Of course, you do have to go to an authorized pump station to do that. And then you get this little valve here, counterclockwise, nice and slowly, just like so. Opens up the flow of propane now to the unit. And then to close it off, of course, you just have to close that valve. And this valve does have to be closed, and the vehicle does have to be off and in park for you to fill that, by the way. Inside here, this is where you're going to just get access to the back of your power couch as well as the seatbelt bolts. Not much you need to worry about in there. It's a little bit of storage space, although I don't really recommend using it. As that, open up this compartment, massive storage space. This is where you're going to find your 30 amp cord. We're using a shop cord today, but again, it just looks exactly like that. And then you do get your standard starter kit. Inside that starter kit, you get a 25-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, some other miscellaneous goodies, including a 15 amp park adapter. That's to go down from your 30 amp of power. That goes down to 15 amps of power, which is a standard household outlet, just in case you want to upkeep the batteries at home. Or again, your campsite only has 15 amp service. The only thing you do have to keep in mind when doing that is you're not able to run your air conditioner. Now, you do have a generator on board that would allow you to run your air conditioner, but I know some campsites are noise compliant at night, so just keep that in mind. In here, again, just a nice little storage spot. Nice long spot, throw some lawn chairs or something. And then way at the back, we'll start here, do your shower. That does just open up with your standard 751 key. And then you're gonna get hot and cold sprayable water, city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, you just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on, and that is what's gonna pressurize all your lines without the need to run your water pump. And then right here is just gonna be your, your black tank flush. So before you ever use that, you do always have to make sure that you have your sewer hose connected and your black tank valve open. And the reason being is just so that once you're pushing pressure inside of that tank, the pressure has somewhere to escape to instead of expanding and cracking inside the tank. So again, that's why it's always important that you do have that valve open. And the purpose of using this is just to help break down the solids inside that tank that much better. You don't have to use it every use, but I do at least recommend doing it every second or third use for sure. Again, it just helps keep that tank that little bit cleaner. It's going to help with false monitor panel readings and such. Next, you get your 30 amp service cord. Again, this is just our shop cord. Works exactly the same though. You just take that end, line it up with this side here, press it out in place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Again, most campsites should have this. You can plug right on in and you're all ready to go. But sometimes they only do have that 15 amp service, in which case you could use that adapter, just not able to use your air conditioner. Cable satellite hookups. Around the back of the unit, not really a whole lot back here you need to worry about, just your 2-inch receiver with your 7-pin wiring. Just keep in mind that you do have to keep with the weight restrictions that come with that. Around this side here, this is going to be your fresh tank fill. So this is what your water pump draws off of. So this is if you were out boondocking, out traveling, you want to carry a little bit of water on board, you just have to thread a garden hose in there, turn it on, and again, that's what fills up your fresh tank. Inside here, lifting up on these two here, open this up. That's what gives you access to your service port for your generator. Oil drain plug's gonna be down there at the bottom. And then if you open up this guy, pull it towards you, that pops that off. You get a manual, like a override switch in case the switch inside isn't working. And then of course you just get access to the oil fill plug, your air filter and all that good stuff. Just locks into it like so. To the left of this right here in this back corner, if you look down below, you're gonna notice a couple different lines of caps coming down. These two, the red and the blue line, is your low point drains. So if you're ever servicing a faucet and at the end of your winterization process, or if you're just leaving the unit for a while, don't want water going stale or stagnant inside the lines, this is the best place to do so. It's the lowest point in the system to try and drain as much water out of the lines as possible. And then this guy right here is just your fresh tank drain. So you get to your destination, you don't want to keep carrying all that water. That's how you can drain it out. Right here, you get your hot water service port. pulling that tab, moving it over, that'll allow you to open up this guy. Really, the only things you need to worry about here is whenever you first get to your campsite, I always like to give this pressure relief valve a pull. There should be a shot of water coming out of there, letting you know that the tank's full. Right here, right now we're currently in our winter months here in Manitoba, so that's why there's no water coming out of there right now, and that's why it wouldn't be safe to fire up. It's never a good idea to fire up your water tank while it's empty, otherwise you do run the risk of burning it out. And that especially goes for if you're firing on electricity. You turn that on, if it's even out of water for a few seconds, it doesn't take long to burn out that probe. And probes, you know, they can get expensive nowadays, so just one thing you're gonna want to avoid, just making sure you have that there. I'm gonna have to put that back on after. Your furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace is on and working, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Inside here, lifting that guy open, that's where you get your little exterior TV, nice little touch they threw in. And then right down below is just a storage compartment. Now for the best part, to take a step on inside, open up this handle, that opens up, the stairs come down towards you. This top stair here, you're gonna notice this little latch. Undoing the latch allows you to get access to your 2 house batteries. Putting that back down, lining that latch back up and locking it in place. And then if you come over here, inside here is kind of like a control area for you. Get your battery disconnect switch. So whenever you're in the on position, the batteries are connected. Whenever you return it to the off position, the batteries become disconnected. In addition to that, disconnecting the batteries like that also disables the 12-volt system inside of here. So if you ever come inside trying to turn your lights on and nothing's working, it's probably because the disconnect's on. So just make sure that that is always connected whenever you want to use the unit. LP detector, because you're equipped with propane's heavier than propane, sits near the ground. If this guy does ever start coming to worrisome levels, it'll start beeping. Don't panic. If you hear it beeping, just turn off the main supply at the side of the unit, open up some windows and vents and get some fresh oxygen inside of here. Over here, you get a couple different light switches to turn on some light switches outside. And then you get your awning control right down below it. This awning works pretty cool. Everything just, you push out, the awning's gonna start making its way out. But now because this awning's automatic, when you push the out button, don't just walk away. Make sure you do watch it kind of the whole way out. And just be double sure that you're not gonna run into anything and you have enough room for that to go fully out without it bumping into anything. At any point in time, if that awning is far enough out for you and you just want to stop it there, you just have to hit the stop button. It'll automatically stop, but otherwise, it'll just keep making its way till it's fully extended. Now, of course, looking at it, it looks exactly like a wind sail. It acts exactly as a wind sail too, so whenever winds do start picking up, it's going to be pretty important to try and remember to bring it in. But because this awning is so smart and technology, I don't know what the word is, sorry. Because it's so advanced, it does have a wind sensor built in. So I'll show you in a few seconds, but before I get there, if you want to close it, you would just have to hit the in button. Awning would make its way in. Once it stops, that's where it ends. Just awning LED light switch on and off. Now the wind sensor, if you just come over here and you start as you see, it does automatically bring itself in. That's an awesome feature, and it does just one less thing you do need to worry about. But again, I wouldn't leave it up to the wind sensor. I'd always try and bring it in yourself if you can remember. Now last but not least, over here is your solar controller. Now we currently have it set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside hitting the solar panels on the roof, it's going to be applying a charge to your batteries. Now there's going to be a bunch of different settings that you can go and play with. They're going to get pretty in-depth, so I do recommend going over the owner's manual whenever you do decide to start playing with those. Now, then you do have your leveling system. It's probably sounds complicated, but it's really not. Hit the power button. The parking brake does have to be engaged, and the ignition actually has to be on for it to work. But if you hit auto level, it would automatically level the unit. Or hit all retract, they'll all retract, or you can manually run them up and down just by using those buttons there. Power button to turn that off. Now behind me, you get the other part of the control system right down below. That light switch turns on the main living space lights so you can kind of see what you're doing. It's on a dimmer control, so you can go bright and dim. Right next to it, it's your AGS system on and off. That's your automatic generator system, so you can set that up again using your phone, but I'm going to recommend going over the owner's manual when you do set it up, because there's going to be some settings you have to play with. Essentially, it's so that if the batteries drop below a certain voltage, it'll automatically turn on your generator for you. But that's going to be important that you have the bus already pre-filled with over a quarter tank with gas. If the bus doesn't have over a quarter tank of gas, the generator will not fire because the pickup is above that. Now above, you get your monitor panel system. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding levels of everything, including your liquid propane. Next, you get your generator start-stop switch. Hit that start button. Generator will try firing itself a few times. But I do believe that this bus is currently lower than a quarter tank, so it's probably not going to go. Water heater, so you can, again, fire that either gas or electric, but it's going to be super important that you do make sure that that tank's already full. And if you're firing it on gas, making sure the system's purged before you do that is very important. I will go over purging of the propane once we get to our stove. Water pump, turning that on. That's what draws out of your fresh tank. And then you got your Arctic pack system. That's essentially for your extended camping season. Now just keep it in mind, it is for that 1 to 5 degree mark. If you are camping below -0, you do run the risk of things freezing. So always being very cautious when doing so. Now, slide out control, which is our last thing there. Again, the parking brake does have to be set, and the unit does have to be running for that to work, just like the stabilizer system. Now today it's going to be pretty important. Always making sure that you do a quick visual check inside. Things do tend to shift during travel. And of course on the outside, making sure you have enough room to go with it all the way out without running it into anything. Now, just saying, I don't have enough room for this to go all the way out just due to space, but I'll run it out as far as I can so you can get the idea. Once the slider reaches full extension, the motors wind up and quit. And that's about all I'm going to be able to go out with it today. Now, a good thing to do, if you want to make sure it's at its full extension, just making sure you feel that slide out fascia butted up against the wall. That way you're sealing out any moisture from making its way in. And I'm just going to kill that ignition quick. There we go. In our dinette space, in our this space here, you got your sofa set up. You got these nice little swivel tables. Now these do actually pop right out of place in case you want to watch a movie with some drinks or something. You can just take it right out of the way if you wanted. They are recliners and they're just electric. So you hit the button, the top button, it goes out. Hit the bottom button, it goes down. You get some storage inside of here, which is nice. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. You can either pull them down the one way, which is going to act as just a bug screen, or you can pull up the other one, which is actually a shade. At the front, you get your standard Mercedes chassis right up at the front. Not much I really need to show you there. Tons of storage throughout this unit. Now, just of course, whenever you are using any of it, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that. Up in the kitchen area, this little thing, cap here, if you push on it, it undoes itself. At that point, you can pull it right on up. You get a couple USB plugs, a couple regular plugs. That's a cool little hidden feature that we found in this one. This does have an induction stove top, so you do have to make sure you have a magnetic pan. A stainless steel pan will not work. Down below you get your convection oven. Again, that's going to work pretty much exactly like home. Storage all around. Now, because this doesn't have a stove, propane stove in it, the purging method isn't going to be the same. So whenever you do try to fire up any of the propane stuff inside of here, when you've had the propane off for a while, once the propane's turned off, it allows air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it does have to be purged out. Now, usually the quickest, easiest way to do that is by using your stove, but you don't have one. So when you are going to fire up, whether that be your furnace or your water heater, if it doesn't light the first couple times, Always try a few more times, just because again, it could be a purging issue. If there's no propane getting to those appliances yet, they're not going to turn on for you, and they're going to throw fault codes. So again, always try it a few times because it could just be a purging issue. Get your residential style fridge, but it is a 12-volt fridge freezer combo. I'm not sure why I said residential style. It is a RV fridge, but a pretty big one at that. It's 12 volt, which is nice, so it will work as long as you have battery power. TV. So both TVs, this one and the one above the door, they're not only your TVs, but they're also going to be your sound for the unit. So they have a built-in sound bar in it, and it has the FM capabilities. Inside this cabinet here, opening up this guy, you're going to notice this coax cable coming out. Right beside it, there is this little black button. You can turn that on and off by the press of it. I know it's probably hard to see on camera. When that red light's on, it's telling you the antenna's on the roof. Now, that's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So we do recommend using it whenever you're using the unit, leaving it on. But if you're not using the unit, try to remember to turn it off, just because it does draw battery power. Right up top, you get your HDMI little plug in there. That's just to go to your TV in case you had a DVD player or something you wanted to hook up. On the wall here, again, you're going to have a switch for some accent lighting. You're also going to notice this extend retract button. So if you move your couch cushions just out of the way, it's probably one of the coolest Murphy beds I've ever seen. You hit extend and she just starts coming down automatically, and then you have yourself your bed. You want that to go back up, hold the retract button, and it'll start making its way up. Then you just put your couch cushions back into place and you have a sitting area again. Over here, it's your kind of wardrobe space. It's also going to be where you find the main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All your corresponding fuses will be on the left, so it's probably a good idea to keep a few spares on hand. This door here, you're going to notice it's locked. It's very important when you're traveling. You always make sure it's locked, because otherwise it's going to be allowed to slide back and forth freely, which could cause damage. To unlock it, you pull down on it like that, close it off. Again, if you're traveling, just making sure that it is actually locked. It's pretty important. You got your thermostat for the unit here on the wall. Now, your air conditioner moves all its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout the unit. Your furnace is going to move all its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. The furnace operates off propane. The air conditioner operates off electricity. When you're running the air conditioner, you have a few different options. You can leave these louvers closed, in which case it'll move its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Or you can open them up, in which case it acts as a quick dump and it'll dump all its air straight down. This is going to be the intake screen for it. So there will be a little screen in there that you might have to blow out some compressed air every once in a while. And then to control it, just kind of works like your standard household thermostat. You turn it on the first time. You get your fan that turns on. Now that's just moving air around using the air conditioner. No heating or cooling involved. Change the fan speed by pressing the fan button. Hit that button one more time. That'll bring you into your cool setting. Now that's when the air conditioning takes into effect. Now for your fan setting, you can push it a few times. It'll go between high and low, but you're going to notice this auto comes on and off. I always recommend using the auto setting only because it creates an on-demand system. So if you have the room set to 16, once it reaches 16, it'll automatically kill the air conditioner. If you have that fan setting on either high or low on just on, the air conditioning fan will run continuously until you actually turn it off. So again, I always recommend using that auto setting. Hit the button one more time. It's going to kill your air conditioner, fire up your furnace. Again, because there's no oven to purge through, might take a couple times if you just turning it off and on, but it should fire up after a few tries. Power button again to turn it off. Last but not least, into the bathroom. Nice spacious bathroom. Light switch on the wall. We're also going to a regular vent above our heads here, clockwise to open it up. Now, if you do notice, with it open all the way, you're opening up straight into the atmosphere. So if it were to start raining, it's going to get wet inside of here. We do sell covers here at the shop. They're going to be, again, a great addition to your camper. It's going to go over top of this vent lid. It's going to allow you to not only leave this vent lid open while traveling and not have to worry about it bending or damaging. It's also going to allow you to leave it open during raining. It's not going to get wet inside here. So if you'd like to get set up with that, it is as simple as contact your parts department. They'd be more than happy to help you out. Counterclockwise to close that down. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bathroom inside of here. Minus the fact of your main GFI plug here in the wall, 90% of your plugs are all hooked up through GFI. So if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look, just making sure that system isn't tripped. Sometimes it can trip for the oddest reasons. And then right behind the cameraman here, right down below the floor, you got these four screws. If you pull this panel out of the way, there would be a little hose sitting back there. This valve here, that's what operates for winterization. So in the normal mode, it's obviously operating normally. Turning over to the winterized mode activates that hose that you then insert into your jug of antifreeze, and you run it through the whole system. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.